Okay, this is my anti-despair reading list. It's books that'll kind of pick you up a little bit if you're feeling super gloomy about the state of the world. These are all nonfiction, by the way. I have fiction ones, but that's a different thing. First up is Rebecca Solnit's Hope in the Dark. She wrote this right after George Bush won the election, and then they re-release it every time something terrible happens. It's amazing, and it really goes into kind of like the history of people who have been in really bleak situations, especially people in like the Soviet Union or in Nazi Germany and like kind of these totalitarian situations, and how they managed to find something to hold on to kind of like power through, even though there was a pretty good chance that they weren't going to survive or ever see like the fruits of their labors. And then while we're at it, we're going to do another Rebecca Solnit book. This one is A Paradise Built in Hell, which is a book that she wrote about how communities respond to catastrophes. And she goes through a lot of historical ones like 9/11 or Katrina or the 1986, I think, earthquake in Mexico, and talks about how these communities, basically, as soon as the catastrophe happened, everyone just started taking care of each other. And if you've ever lived through a catastrophe, I went through like a tornado and a hurricane, and I noticed like people actually help each other a lot more than you think. And it's not the chaos that people expect. Humans actually kind of from the grassroots are very good at taking care of each other. And human nature is a lot more positive than you really think. Next up, and also in the changing your perspective category, is Ziya Tong's Amazing the Reality Bubble. In this, she goes into all of humans' blind spots about the world, just from like our sensory perspectives to our inability to understand the scale of the universe, and even to just like how we can't even fathom where like our food goes. I think this is a really good one if you're feeling down on things, because it shows you just like things aren't as clear and as easy as it seems. There's actually so much that we don't understand about the world, and that can be really cool. Curiosity is an antidote to fear. If you're utterly confused about the chaos of the world, then there's really no author I can recommend more than the British writer John Higgs. There are a few of his books I could recommend, but I'm going to go with Stranger Than We Can Imagine. This is his alternative history of the 20th century, and it talks about basically how at the beginning of that century, we thought we understood everything about the universe, and then the 20th century was just one after another, things blowing up everything we thought about everything. And so now we have to come up with a new way of looking at the world, and he starts to give some proposals for how we could look at the world in a different and even more interesting way. The last two are more if you're to the point where you actually want to change things. First one I recommend is Mark Kurlansky's Nonviolence, The History of a Dangerous Idea. He goes into how nonviolence has been used throughout history as actually a tool of social change, rather than it just being sort of a pacifism where people are able to roll over you. If you want to see why nonviolence works, I would recommend reading Why Civil Resistance Works by Erica Chenoweth and Maria J. Stephan. This actually goes into a lot of the data behind how nonviolent campaigns have been far more successful than violent campaigns in getting things to change in the past. Bunch of reasons for this, but I'm going to let you get to it in the book. If you got any other ones, love to hear about them in the comments.